welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya Master Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
We're so glad to welcome Anne-Marie back. Anne-Marie, we missed you the last few weeks. Maybe it's not a few weeks, but we missed you. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. I missed you guys. It's really good to be back.
It's wonderful to have you, and it's good to see you in the pink of health and so forth. So, yeah, well done on rejoining the living because you've been through some tough times.
I certainly have. It's been one hell of a winter.
It has been, yes. Well, spring is theoretically here. Just you didn't know.
It makes such a difference. We've actually got sunshine over our side of the world, so that's just delightful.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of unusual this time of year for you, isn't it?
It can go nice, and then next week it could be snowing, and then it'll be raining, and then you just get every season in one day. It's great. You can never tell.
Yeah,
at the moment it's sunny.
We have the saying here, but I know it originated there. If you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes and it'll change.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? That's it. So we're joined today by Davina Hehn, who is the founder of the Parental Shift. And Davina, first of all, welcome to the program. We're glad that you could join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I got a question to get you started, though. One of the things that we find, just to let people know, you're a trained therapist. You're now a mental health coach. So you made that jump from therapy to coaching, and you specialize as an anger and conflict specialist. But one of the things that I found, not just with therapists and life coaches, but also with just about every manner of guest who comes onto the show, is that one of the things that motivated them to follow their career path is their own crash and burn moments. And especially with a therapist or a coach, I can pretty much bank on it. There was going to be something there in the background that drove you in a direction like that. And we love those stories. So if you don't mind, I'd like to know, what was your crash and burn moment?
Yeah, well, I've had multiple. But,
multiple, okay, well, yeah. So you're good at it. That's good. It's nice to have a skill.
Getting better at resilience, adaptability, right? But yeah, I think a lot of us that end up in a helping profession, we tend to come from some level of not even dysfunction in a bad way, but more so just always wanting to be the one to mend and help people repair and kind of mediate. And so that's what got me into the field in general. And then during my training to be a therapist, there was just a lot that I didn't love about it. It didn't quite work for me, just constantly focused on diagnoses and these larger labels when a lot of us just aren't taught emotional literacy or coping skills. And so that was one of my big, oh man, I am lost. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. This isn't what I want to do anymore. And so there was a bit of a crash and burn there within my identity. So that is what brought me into the coaching space, where I went into anger management in an attempt to fix my husband, because I saw that he could use it and he wasn't quite open to doing the work at the time. And so my logic as being this permanent fixer was, okay, well, I will go and learn, and then I'll infiltrate from within and I will fix this man. And so that was part of it. Once I was in it, I learned that I was also contributing to the problem, that I also had my own stuff that I didn't quite realize. And so that launched so much of me doing this work, not just villainizing him and kind of letting him take center stage. It was me recognizing how I contribute poorly to our overall dynamic and our marriage. And then what got me into parenting and working with parents, especially within the first 10 years or so of their parenthood, is when my husband and I became parents, and it overwhelmed our ability to cope. We didn't know how to do this properly. We didn't know how to communicate properly, manage the stress together. And that was the ultimate crash and burn that led to us nearly separating 4 years ago. So now we're doing the work. We rewrote the narrative of our marriage, and we really leaned into each other and our strengths, and also our, what are they called? Like rooms for improvement, and really allowed for us to lean in and get to know ourselves in a way that we had never. And that's kind of what brought me here today.
That's very good. Yeah. Isn't it always the case? We want to do something to help improve our significant other,
And we kind of skip over the part where we have to improve ourselves first because we really can't help somebody else unless we're there.
No, but it's so much easier to see them and
Oh
see
yeah,
what
of
they need to
course.
work on because it's like you're standing right in front of me. And yeah, I oftentimes say that we can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yeah,
And
good way
so
to
we're
describe it.
constantly telling
Yeah.
everyone else their ingredients and what's kind of not quite right
Yep.
in theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're experts at other people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then when our image is skewed, right? Like I was in school for counseling to be a therapist and was so sure that I was a self-aware, emotionally intelligent human, and I just was not. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a bit of, there's just a lot of identity crises that I think happen in your mid to late 20s, 30s that no one prepares you for. And when a lot of us are having kids at that age, of course.
Well, sure, yeah, but I maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I found that most this is a little bit of a generalization, but most people who go into therapy do so because they're trying to figure out their own families. But that doesn't sound like it was the case with you.
No, I mean, oftentimes it's rarely, in my experience, it's kind of been rarely that. It's more so, how can I help other people so that I don't have to focus on me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's usually us kind of doing that from the time we're young. It's emotionally monitoring other people, doing what we can to fix their experience so that mine can be more peaceful. And
Yeah, there's
then,
a very common theme. That's not just among
yeah.
therapists. That's like society wide.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so then we're kind of left with this like,
Mm.
oh, okay. I do kind of have to focus on myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually astonishing. When you look for it, it's astonishing just how widespread that is. And then when you look in the mirror and you realize it's you too, it's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to face that.
Yeah, I think that there's also kind of this misconception of people within a helping profession that we don't struggle through these things. And that if we have this education and this training and all of this, then like our lives and our marriages must just be perfect. And no, we oftentimes are, every one of us needs our own provider, and surgeons don't operate on themselves no matter what schooling they have. And so there really is that part that we still need someone else to work with and to work with me. And so I always tell people, when you're looking for a coach, a counselor, a therapist, whomever, if they don't also have their own provider, it's a massive red flag.
Once again, the value of mirrors.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I'm often surprised, like, why aren't mirrors more popular merchandise? Because they're so useful to so many of us in
It
life.
is. Yeah, and my husband is Lifetime Food and Beverage, and we had learned about this study that if you put mirrors on the back of bars, people are less likely to lead with aggression because nobody wants to see themselves behave
Oh,
in a
wow.
poor way. And so
Interesting.
that's why we see so many more bars adding mirrors there.
Now, I wonder how many people who run retail outlets are going to notice that study and start applying it, because that's not just going to be bars. That's going to be any kind of customer
Yeah.
outreach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be kind of,
Yeah.
there is something there about, it's one thing to act unhinged over the phone or the internet or like when no one's looking at you, and a whole other thing to know that I can see myself in a way that I likely don't see, right? Like I'm a passionate speaker, not an aggressive speaker, but then when there's a mirror in front of me, it's like, ooh, no, I really am coming through as quite aggressive.
You're also giving me another idea. Today, we're used to the idea of having online support for X, whatever the service is that you're offering to the public, and especially with the larger companies, the corporations, they have this pool of people spread out around the world who are doing chats, text chats. It makes me wonder how much less negative feedback would they get if they did video chats where the person getting the support could see themselves on screen.
I'd imagine much less.
I would think.
100%. And it's also even if you could see who you're speaking to
Yeah.
and who you are giving that negative feedback to, it's really easy to do so when they're kind of just this blank canvas that doesn't quite have these features.
Oh, yeah.
And then a whole other thing to do it to them face to face.
In fact, you're making me think back to when I started recording this podcast using the video technologies. I think we first did it using, what did we use first? I can't remember which platform it was, but it was the first time that we could actually see each other as we were doing the shows. I have a feeling around that time, that's about the time when I came up with the idea of adding your daily dose of happy as the subtitle. I can't say that that's exactly true, but I wouldn't be surprised because I was seeing myself and realizing, well, what am I actually doing here?
Well, and there's an energy exchange.
There
Right?
is.
There has to be that. And now I'm a full virtual provider, and so that's been a really big shift for me, and missing the energy exchange of being in person with people. There really is kind of something that feels like it lacks that. And of course, there's a lot of pluses to the full virtual, which is why I ultimately took that plunge. But there is kind of that, I miss that experience for sure.
Yeah, there are certain things. I mean, you pick up a lot with a virtual visual exchange, but there are certain things you just miss. There's like body languages and just vibes that you don't quite get. I mean, you do get them to a certain extent, but you're right. It's not the same thing as being in person.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So, okay. Anne Marie, when Davina was talking about her own crash and burn moments, particularly those leading into when she was dealing with her husband and dealing with becoming a parent and so forth, I was wondering how much of that was resonating with you.
Well, I think when you have these life-changing moments, they really do kind of take you out of the norm, and they address, like, things show up, don't they? Like when you become a mother or a father, there's so much impact. There's lack of sleep, and there's new humans to look after, and it just brings up, you're no longer having to be so self-absorbed because you have to look after other people. And that's when I think, for me, certainly, I learned that I was more patient than I thought I was, but actually I also learned other things about myself. And it's just, it's navigating. I mean, with me and my husband, we've always been quite good at communication. So when these things happen, but I'm not going to say things didn't fall apart at times, because it certainly did. But that's when you have to you're right, you have to look in the mirror, and it's not just one person. It's two people who are making these mistakes together, and it's, can you get back to that meeting place?
Yeah, I think I've changed so much since I became a parent, and a lot of it was holding each of us to previous narratives that no longer matched who we are. And so I would hold him to standards or expectations or assume his thought processes in ways that didn't align anymore. And so when we nearly separated, when we chose to really lean into the marriage and rewrite it, we fully introduced ourselves, like reintroduced ourselves to each other, and shared where we think the old narratives are coming back through, and where we could, how we could find and replace those with something different. He also is now sober from alcohol. So that, of course, was a massive thing that
Congratulations to him.
Saved.
That's big.
Yes, I'm so proud of him. And in 5 days is his 4-year. So I'm
fantastic.
Wow.
Yes, I'm so proud of him. He is amazing. He's now certified in anger management as well. So we sometimes do some things together. But yeah, I mean, it took both of us being open to doing that work and being willing to look in that mirror and see our blind spots and see our ugly and see the things that aren't the cutest things to address. But at least if we know where they are and what they look like, we can modify them. And we had to not only do that for ourselves, but allow the other one to do that too. There was a lot of resentment, pent up, regret and anger and all of these types of things toward each other, the injustices that both of us felt like we experienced. But it took us being able to address those head on and say the gross stuff out loud and still be accepted by each other, and give the other one room to continue to mess up, but know that we were on the same track, working toward the same goal, which was ultimately healing a lot of the things that we experienced so that our kids don't repeat it.
Yeah. You're just getting to understand each other, because if you're attacking somebody, even in your mind, like this is your fault, you're making me feel like this and this and this. But by trying to understand their perspective and then figuring what's going on with you, then it just opens it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I went from, focusing so much on he's drinking. Why is he drinking so much? Why is he so angry when he drinks? And all of this, instead of what is he running away from? Or what is he running toward? What am I missing here? And in retrospect, the one thing that I really would have liked to do differently was place less emphasis on the problematic solution to the underlying problem. But it's why he's considered an alcoholic, an addict, these types of things versus a trauma survivor, versus somebody who is working through learning how to cope with things that overwhelmed his ability to. And that's why I think a lot of us get into these traps of focusing so much on the solution, the shopping, the anger, the sex, the love, whatever these things are that we are either running away from and to numb ourselves or running toward in an attempt to fix. And that became something huge for me. So then it stopped being about his drinking and more so about what was driving it. So that was his work to do. And I had to learn how to stop being so codependent and just, man, it's been a long journey of that. And then I had to learn, what is it about my experience that enabled? What did I think I was trying to accomplish? And while it was with good intention, it had poor impact and it prolonged these things until we ended up in a crisis. And while now we lovingly look back on that and we're so deeply grateful for it, it was gross and it was so hard, and it completely destroyed so much of what we thought was who we were. And so we got to rebuild that, but without our willingness to do the work and see where each of us contributed, we were doomed.
Yeah, that's a theme that plays out over and over in terms of the guests we have here on the program. The crash and burn moment is not one they ever want to go through again, but they're grateful for it. Like, that's where we did all the best learning. That's where all the good stuff happened that came out of it. The amazing journey that came after that we could never have anticipated. Everybody agrees on that. It's amazing.
I know,
you don't find many
it?
things in life that everybody agrees on. That's one of them.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my coping skills now, is whenever something, not great is happening, instead of my previous self of being like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? This is terrible. And like kind of going into like that like anxious freak out. I'm now, okay, a year from now, is there anything that we could view that's positive from this? A year from now, will this still affect us to this depth? And really kind of try to pull my timeline out of it so that I don't just get trapped in the here and now and scared of what that might mean.
Yeah. Now, you're the founder of the Parental Shift, and you have shift
especially
in all
for our
capital
kids.
letters. That's HIFT. That usually means that there's an acronym with a bunch of stuff that it stands for. So let's find out what that is.
Yeah, we love acronyms in the personal development world.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
the
if
name
somebody
of my
comes on the show and they don't have an acronym, I wonder, like, what is there something wrong? What's going on?
and they're constantly changing too, and so it's just, it's one of those fundamental. My practice is named A Steady Space because I really wanted people to come into a place where they could just find some balance and go back into the world. I'm not a big advocate for the chronic therapeutic model. And so that was that part. And now the parental shift is the first part of this shift experience, which of course the acronym is where we start, which is our S, which is our self. So our self-awareness, our self-attunement, our emotional intelligence, just really learning about us, because we're not going to focus on other people first, right? So that's where we start. And then the H is just healing from some of that. It's usually healing from the BS of it. And it's not just doing like the deep soul destroying work and soul rebuilding work that we typically think of when we talk about healing. I'm more so talking about even these micro healing moments where we get to go back and repair and apologize, or even just acknowledge within ourselves that the previous way that I was responding or reacting just didn't quite work. and what was I really looking to achieve from there. And so a lot of the healing is just accepting that it's existing, that that part of me existed, that it still might, that these things happened, and being able to move through them instead of just bogged down by the fact that they happened at all. And then from there, we innovate. So that's our I. We innovate something, usually within our communication, the way that we communicate with ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves, the narratives that we carry about ourselves. And we try something new and different, like the parental shift and these types of things, that allows for us to create more resilience, adaptability, and then the fortitude. That is our F. And it's really just the belief that I can do this. A lot of the time we want the result. We want to live our lives differently, but we typically get caught up in not knowing if I'm capable, not believing that I'm worthy of that, not knowing how I'm going to fix our entire family dynamic in one fell swoop, right? And it's really just reminding ourselves that it's really small things incrementally over time. And that's, you know, the entirety of what I do is about empowerment, right? I'm really working to help all of us feel empowered enough to do the work, say when enough is enough, recognize when we're sick of our own stuff and when we're ready to do something different. And then ultimately we get into the T of transformation. And again, not like this entire top to bottom, you know, thing. It's more so these small transformations over time that then start to rewire us and start to feel that much more automatic.
And of course, the great thing
Yeah,
about
that's
the
a
parental
whole thing.
shift, the labeling of the parental shift, is that it's a reminder that it's the parent that has to shift. It's not the child; it's the
Yes.
parent.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the research that we're seeing on this is wild, that when kids go to therapy, counseling, coaching, find mentorship, whatever this is, they benefit greatly. And then they go back into their homes and it doesn't get erased, but it definitely doesn't get reinforced. And that becomes the harder part. So then when the parents get in, the outcomes are exponentially better. And what I'm doing here within the parental shift that's different, because I'm not a child development expert, I'm not a parenting expert. This isn't about how to parent or parenting styles or gentle parenting or, you know, sleeping and these types of things. This is about really bringing out the parent that parenthood buried. This is about focusing on the person that is within that so that then our kids can benefit by proxy. But this isn't just about our kids. And like, how are you going to handle their tantrum? It's like, well, no, it's what am I going to do within my internal system to regulate myself long enough and hopefully continuously enough that I can model that for them. And
I
so
can think
this is really a place for us to kind of reclaim ourselves and decide and recognize who we've kind of morphed into, that we don't even recognize ourselves anymore. And I wouldn't even know what it would look like to recognize myself at this point.
I can think of somebody I know, and I've even mentioned them a few times here on the show, who pretty much embodies not doing that, not doing what you were just describing.
Can you
It,
tell me more about that?
it's
What does
a
that mean?
it's a pair of parents who have a daughter. I believe they also have a son, but somehow he seems to keep himself out of it. I'm not quite sure. I haven't figured that part out yet. But the daughter bears the brunt of all of the parents' stuff, and the parents' stuff is usually about being right and being in charge. And the daughter has learned here are the different things to do about being right and being in charge. So she does the same thing, and then she gets in trouble for it. And it's just this
Yes.
ongoing dynamic. And I keep waiting for the day where I hear the parent shift their behavior pattern to, okay, I'm the one who's encouraging her to be this way. I'm going to behave differently and just throw her off. And I keep waiting for it. It never happens. It may show up one day. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I think a lot of us are raised with some of these antiquated thoughts that we shouldn't have to apologize to a kid or recognize the thing. And I'm perfectly fine the way that I am with it, and that's just they're too bad. And for some of us, I think it's fine. for the rest of us who want grown adult children to want us around, not just need us, and not keep us around just out of obligation or guilt, I want to be wanted in my kids' lives and welcomed openly, not somebody that they consider whether they have to invite them and like come and see me to brace for their impact, right? So it's this type of experience that I craved a lot growing up. I had two wonderful parents. I didn't experience any, significant trauma and these types of things. I just recognize that I want to raise my kids a bit differently. I want them to be coached through and communicated through these life events as opposed to being a shadow while you experience these life events. And I'm also raising two boys, two men. And the world is lonely for men, and a lot of men suffer in silence. And my husband is, a very obvious one of who experienced that. And so I'm really working to rewrite these things and in a way that feels more empowering for me to recognize where I'm erring and being able to know what to do about it, I think is a very powerful thing. And the whole idea of change as weakness is wild to me. I won't ever quite understand that fundamentally because it goes against what we're taught inherently, which is that like we're supposed to take on challenges head on and we're supposed to be doing these things. But when it's about us, it's like, no, watch your mouth, don't be fresh. Yeah. So our kids have benefited greatly. I was just talking to my nearly 8-year-old about this recently, about the changes that that my husband and I are working through and what changes he's noticed. And it's been incredible. We're seeing their behavior shift over time. They're able to regulate more over time. It's not yelling at them to calm down. It's not, it's just we're walking contradictions. And we lead by example, not by what we say.
See, now that's what I'm hoping for with this other family that I know of. I mean, I would love to see that transition happen at some point. I mean, not from afar. Obviously, it's not my family, so it's not really my business directly. But I see enough of it that's like, I really don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate thing because the more we lean in, sometimes the further people pull away.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I've learned very quickly that good advice given at a bad time is just bad advice. And so I can see that entirely. And it took me that long too. I still get, of course, defensive based on certain things that pop up, but it's what we do with it afterward of like, oh, okay, well, did that kind of make sense? And what can I carry with that? And where does it not?
It's a challenge. It really is. I mean, I had somebody recently offer a bumper sticker that she really liked and thought I might like. And it was basically one of these advice bumper stickers. And I declined. And I told her the reason I didn't want to accept it was I'm trying to change my own behavior so that I stop giving out unrequested advice.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's a big deal for society as a whole, for individuals. And it's something we all really enjoy doing. We love, giving unsolicited advice to somebody else. We aren't so great about taking it directly ourselves, but we love giving it out. Yeah. And I don't think most of us realize just how much damage we do by doing it. We think we're helping. We think that we're doing good. We're passing along righteous messages or whatever. And all we end up doing is undermining without realizing it. So, that's what I've been trying to be cognizant of. But even then, even with some awareness, it's a hard habit to break.
It really is. And really, again, it's with the best of intention. The impact is just poor, So it's about working through those types of things. But I commend you for being open and knowing that you want to make a change in the way you're presenting. I mean, even just declining that, I think, is a really big shift already.
Well, yeah.
Right? It's going to be these smaller, more incremental things as opposed to this like. Remember what was that show where they did like that full makeover? It was like Black Swan. No, something. And it's like, it's a full makeover show. And then at the end, they just present this fully changed human. And I think a lot of people expect that that's what this work looks like. and are either pleasantly surprised or disappointed that it's
Well,
not
if you give it
such a
enough
massive
years,
change.
potentially, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
willing to look at a long enough time span, that could happen. But if you're looking for it
Yeah.
to happen next week, good luck.
Yeah, I actually have an anecdotal timeline that I give people when they say, like, how long until I'm fixed,
Mm,
which is the question I get asked almost every time. And I tend to recommend 1 month for every year that you've been alive
okay.
until things start to feel more automatic.
Hmm.
Mm.
And so, and then if it's a parenting, how old are your kids? If it's a marriage or relationship thing, how long have you been together, been in each other's lives? And then that is pretty much a gauge. So we can kind of see what this looks like.
That actually works on a number of levels because usually, whenever we're trying to change a habit of some kind, we're not going to really start to see a shift of any kind for about 30 days. And then it takes about 90 to 120 days before it actually starts to set in and become permanent.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's a good rule of thumb to
Mm.
follow. I like that one.
Yeah, and I mean it's worked out pretty well. I have no idea how to test this. I would like to like get this
Well, give
solidified,
us enough
but
time.
I
We'll
don't
come up with
think.
a test for you. I mean,
Yeah, let's do it. I would love to. I think it just makes complete sense. And it was while we started doing this work 4 years ago, it didn't really start feeling more automatic until a little over a year ago. And I was 35, 36. And that took about 3 years. And I was like, I'm onto something. I'm telling you, this is real. But so it would just have to be people's self-report. But yeah, I mean, I think it's if we can give a realistic amount of time to this versus people thinking that it's going to be done in 6 weeks, 6 months,
Mm.
expectation management, I think, is massive. And that really helps us kind of gauge longer versus feeling disappointed that it wasn't fast enough.
well, yeah. Because Anne-Marie, it's so much easier if we're thinking that it's going to be quick, and when we have to actually work on it, like she's describing, piecemeal, a little bit at a time, over time, like, oh, like I'm committing to something here.
Exactly, but I think that's so much. How often do we people like, for example, stick to diets for 6 weeks and then go straight off the wagon and they're back
Yeah.
to their old habits? If you change
Mm,
those little things far more steadily and consistently, then it's more likely to stick and stay in place.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm
exactly.
pretty sure New Year's resolutions by March, I believe only 8% are still standing.
Yeah,
And a lot of it is this expectation of perfection, this expectation of consistency. And I hear that a lot with the couples and the parents that I work with, where things are so great with air quotes for a couple of weeks and then they manage a conflict poorly. They, manage their child's
Mhm.
eruption poorly, and then they get this, oh well, the last few weeks were so great and now this brought us all the way back. And it's like, no, stop it. That's not what it is. We can't catastrophize these things. We have to expect to mess up time and time and time again. We have to expect our days to not be consistent. They won't be. It's
Mm.
just more so keeping this front of mind as we do the work. And so a lot of the way that I approach these things is kind of crass. I use a lot of foul language. I use a lot of humor and dark humor because my background is forensic psychology, and so is prison system,
Mm.
Ah,
sex offense. There's a lot that like you got to bring something to, and so
mhm.
I have a very dark humor, and so I like to bring in a lot of the real life things where I will acknowledge that parenting sucks and I will acknowledge that kids are annoying and I will acknowledge these things because it's just gaslighting an entire generation of people that they should just be grateful that they have children at all and any complaint is not okay and makes them a terrible parent or whatever this is. Like
Mm.
we have to have these expectations that we are going to mess up continuously. It's what we do with it afterward. We have new
Mm.
and different tools. We innovate this and then we keep it going. But a lot of us are black and white thinkers and we'll end up
Mm.
getting a very big case of the forget it's, to put it
Well,
But when,
more
oh, sorry, when you have those slip ups, that's when you can go, okay, well, that didn't work. I could have done this different. So it's actually a real learning opportunity rather
yeah.
than, oh, we're back at square one.
Yeah. And then the idea that, like, well, it's quote too late now.
Mm.
mhm.
What do
It's
you
never
mean?
too late.
Are we both still here breathing? Like, are we still both with us? We're good. And if we're not, okay, well, that's something that you can do within you. There's
Mhm.
there's a lot of that of like, well, this happened last week. Like, I just can't bring it up again. Like, well, you're going to holster that and it's going to come up in a fight. You might as well bring it up now in a better way that's more smooth and get more able to tolerate conflict. Right. I have a certification in conflict resolution, and we hear a lot about conflict management, but it's really just working with the ability to tolerate it, to sit in it and know that I'm able to work my way through. And that with each of these things, my husband and I got picked on a lot when we first started doing this work because our family, our friends were just like, you guys are talking about everything. You're giving the most detail. You guys are sharing like the most minute things to like the sound my husband makes when he brushes his teeth. And it used to drive me absolutely crazy. And so then I started saying like, hey, are you open to hearing something that kind of bothers me? And he's like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, well, sometimes you make this noise and it kind of bothers me. And like, are you aware of it? Would you be open to changing it? Maybe I'll brush my teeth in a different room and I don't want you to be offended. And we kind of just started going into the minutia. And these types of things just gave us low risk scenarios to start practicing conflict. So people perceive that as nitpicky when I was like, this is practice. We're running drills. I'm going to talk about how he folds towels and he's going to talk about the fact that I talk to him when he's tired at night and I keep him awake. And we will do these things slowly while we build that ability to tolerate the conflict. A lot of the time we jump right into the big stuff and it's like, no, we're not equipped. We're not going to go straight to the Super Bowl. Like, run some laps. Let's do some drills.
One of the things that has often not surprised me, but made me wonder, let's put it that way, is you made reference earlier to, well, you should be appreciating that you have children. You should appreciate all this kind of stuff, which is great stuff. But you also you need to let out what's going on. You got to be real about that kind of thing. And the part that has always confused me is, why is it one or the other? I mean, it seems like we're handed, you either have to do this or you have to do that. You can't have them both. I don't quite understand that one.
I don't either. I don't quite understand it. I think a lot of it tends to come from toxic positivity where like the intention is really good. And also we don't know how to tolerate these things. A lot of us don't know how to accept multiple truths. And that's where I think we fall within this cognitive distortion of the black and white thinking. Because that's also how people speak to me, right? Like I'm active on socials. I get a lot of people with a lot of big opinions about, oh, I must not love my kids because I called them annoying, or these types of things. And it's like, what? Right? It's this acceptance of multiple truths. And so when we start doing this work, one of the very first things that I have my clients practice is doing and instead of but as often as they can. So that it's not I love you, but I'm mad at you. It's I love you and I'm mad at you. It's that you feel this way, but I feel that way. It's like, no, they don't contradict each other. You feel this way and I feel that way. It is
That's
these
powerful.
kinds of things. It's the smallest shift and it changes a lot of the way that we view these things to be able to just accept multiple truths. And if we can do that, we then have people like me who can say, I love and adore my children. I was not built to be a parent. I wasn't born to be a parent. That's another anecdotal theory I have. But I was not born to be a parent. I don't view the world through the lens of a parent. I'm looking at my sister who was absolutely born to be a parent. I'm like, oh, you do? Okay. Oh, okay. You decorate for St. Patrick's. Okay. So like little feet. Okay, cool. Like I don't know how to do these things. And a lot of the time, I can now say that I wasn't born to be a parent. I adore my children. I think the world is genuinely a better place because they exist within it. And there are times that I resent parenting. I resent the responsibilities of it. I'm resentful of the 20-something that made this choice that now the 30-something has to live through. And it's this type of multiple truths and being able to just acknowledge that they exist without thinking that they have to mean something so much bigger afterward that is essential. And then that black and white thinking of, oh, okay, well, if you resent the previous version of you, you must wish that you never had your kids. And like, oh my gosh, what a terrible mother you must be. And it's okay. I can't fight that. That's wild. And I understand that where these things come from because there's a fear of children being unloved. and the fear of them feeling it, and us us lying to ourselves constantly and shoving down the feelings that we actually feel are going to make our children feel unloved, because we will continue screaming at them and spanking them and punishing them and isolating them and judging them. That's the roundabout way that these things end up manifesting anyway. And so I talk to my kids often about what it's like to be a parent, and the beautiful parts and the not so beautiful parts, the parts that I don't mind doing, the parts that I hate doing. And it just humanizes the experience. And so I want them to know what they're getting into. I was raised by a person who was born to be a parent. My mom was born to be a parent. And then I became one, and I was like, oh, this sucks. I don't like this. Like, this is not, it's not for me. Is there a return policy? Like, how do I do this?
Yeah,
Like, it was just, I was shocked. And if I can imagine many of us are too. And that's where I want us to have a place where we can go and share these things and not be judged and not feel gross for saying them, because I'll be the first one to admit it. So then you can just like nod along. You don't have to worry about saying anything too unhinged.
I think kind of a way to summarize the topic we're discussing is most of us are willing to accept that life is messy. Not so many are willing to embrace it.
Yeah.
Because that's really the difference. I mean, okay, yeah, I get it. Life's messy. Now, can we please clean it up?
What are we going to do about it? Yeah.
As opposed to, okay, life's messy. I'm willing to embrace that. I'm like, yeah, okay. Some of the time I got it. Some of the time I don't. That's the harder one to get.
Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of it comes into the S and the fortitude, like the self and the fortitude, is that we often talk about depression, anxiety, and depression is really a disease of the past, and anxiety is a disease of the future. And a lot of the time we can feel anxious about these things. We want the mess to be cleaned up faster because I don't know how it's going to get done. I don't have a lot of faith that I can do it. And I don't know how I'm going to be supported in the way that I need to be supported in order to move through it. And so if we can embrace it, if we can say, yeah, this is messy. Yeah, like about to get on a flight with these kids, it's going to be horrific for the next 4 hours. And anything better than them just like tearing hats off people and pulling the woman in front of us her hair, like anything other than that is a win. And really acknowledging this setup. You know, I suffered deeply in the early years of parenting because I had these expectations that my kids should just like sit still, be quiet. And then any peep was like, and then now it's more so, okay, all right, this is going to suck. They're going to be trapped in the car for hours. What can I bring along that will remedy these things when they come up, instead of me just yelling at them and telling them to be quiet? It's working against what it is that I want them to experience and feel as they're growing up.
Yeah. The fact that life is messy in all of its forms, not just in parenting, but in all of its forms. I don't care what area of life we're talking about. Messes prevail. Welcome to the 3D world. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I just wish people were more comfortable talking about how messy these things are, and not just like you're never going to sleep again, or, oh, you got your hands full. And it's like, no, this sucks. I'm screaming inside. Like, I don't know how to navigate this. And it's because of these platforms on social media that I really love about it, because it does give us some room to make us feel seen and heard and understood. And there's just, I think the current model of parenthood, of marriage, of life is a trap. I think it's a bait and switch. And then when we are upset that we got switched and that it didn't match our expectations, it's like, well, that sucks for you. And there's really not a lot of that. I want to, and I absolutely plan to share all of the ugly with my kids. I want to talk to them about all of these things, about conflict, about emotions, about marriage, about parenting, about identity, and all of these types of things. I want to fully mentor them through their lives in a way that I wasn't, because I'm also a child of immigrants. That was a luxury for them to work on self-awareness. Like, they did not have that luxury. And I do. And now I have a responsibility to carry it through. And it's our first time living too. Like we have to be real.
Mhm.
And there's that part that I wish we could all do together more often.
Mhm.
And there's also the surprise side too. Well, I think of it as a surprise side. You might not, but I'll be interested to see actually if you do. But
Yeah.
to me, the surprise side is where you finally find a way to embrace the mess, embrace the messiness, and when you do, things start to get better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The messes start to actually clean themselves up,
Yeah.
which can be a little confusing.
Yeah. Well, because our expectation changes,
Yeah.
right? If I expect to be, a lot of the time I get frustrated when I'm in the middle of a task and it gets interrupted because I had the expectation, whether I recognized it or not, that I should be able to complete this task start to finish without interruption.
Mm.
So then any interruption just pisses me right off. But if I go into this saying, okay, I'm open, right? And my life is just going to be a massive interruption. Let's be real, like everything is going to be. And if I go in and say, okay, it'd be really nice if I could read one chapter of this book, and I'm also trying to do it when the kids are awake and they're obsessed. Thankfully, I'm still the center of their universe. I love this. It's going to be, okay, let me see how much I can get through before. And it's these types of things that then come in. So then if I am able to get through more pages than I expected, it's like, ooh, that's pleasant. That's nice. And it
Mm.
really is affecting these things. And then the pushback I get is like, oh, so you want me to just lower my standards?
Mm.
Lower my standards for my partner, my behavior from my kids, myself. And no, you just set unrealistic ones from the get. So we're not
Mhm.
lowering them. We are we're modifying them. We're putting them back where they should have. We don't want to should on ourselves.
Nope.
Back where we would have benefited more greatly from setting them from the get.
Yeah.
And so it's a modification, not a lowering. And again, if I'm measuring you by the rubric that I created, am I measuring myself against that same rubric?
Yeah. That's a great example. That kind of pushback is an excellent example of not accepting and not embracing the mess,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a fine line. I work with a lot of couples, and the the ultimate question that I think they find themselves wondering and kind of trapped within, especially the wives, if I'm being completely transparent, is am I asking too much or am I convincing myself to settle?
Mhm.
And that's a really fine line. It's a really hard thing to navigate through. I ask myself those same questions. I'm sure my husband did too. He will deny it because he's a gem. But there's that part of not quite knowing which one. And
Mhm.
it has to go back to yourself. You have to look at yourself and learn about yourself, of what your values are. I was raised in a household that had very strong opinions about a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And just because I was raised that way doesn't mean I have to stay that way. I
Mhm.
now have free will. I now am an adult. I now get the choice of whether this still aligns with me. And if it doesn't, and also if I'm saying it aligns with me, why? What about it still aligns with me? Or is that just a checkbox question that I don't want to know the answer to? And so this type of work, it has to come down to that of, okay, well, what am I really gauging this on? What am I rooting myself in? And do I even know myself at this point? Or am I just this amalgam of everyone else's opinions that I've then kind of taken on so that people don't hate me or judge me or mean to me?
And let's be honest, in many ways, that's who we are. We are these amalgams. We are these,
Yeah.
we're pattern matchers,
Yes.
right? We we
Yeah.
we we identify patterns from our parents, from our teachers, from our peers, from our coworkers, our bosses, and then we integrate the ones that we feel really match up with us, and we throw out the rest of them. We say, "Okay, I've got it all figured out,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the pattern changes.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we lose ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so much of what we're doing now and the work that I'm encouraging and challenging other people to do is to just figure out where we're starting from now. Right.
Mm.
A lot of therapy is in the past, it's our childhood, these types of things. Of course, they matter. They matter in
Mhm.
massive ways. And we are here. We are where we are at here. And so, what patterns can we recognize and what do we do? Like, how do we want to move through them? And I have a history of being extremely codependent, very passive, the peoplest of people pleasers, you would like to say. Like, I refer to myself as a recovering people pleaser because it's really challenging to not second guess myself based on other people's reactions to me. It's a really, I'm working on not needing to be liked all the time, and like how to sit in that and how to let people disagree with my opinions and not have that make me question whether they should exist or not. And that is such a massive thing that when I got to this person who's, 32 with two kids, young kids, I think they were 1 and 4 at the time, and on the brink of separation, divorce, I was just like, oh man, like, what, who, how, what, like, how? This is just the question. I didn't understand how I even got here,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand how to get through. And so
Yeah.
that's what we got to pick and choose. It's like,
Yeah.
which
The
one?
acronym I think you're reaching for was WTF. Yeah.
Many of those moments in parenting.
Yeah, and like WT actual F. Like,
Yeah.
what
Actually,
is happening? And it really was that, right? It's just, I think that this is a blessing and it's a luxury that we have to be able to do this work. It's not something that I want people to view as like, oh, I'm broken and I have to go get fixed, or there's something wrong with me and now this is why I have to do this. It's no, you get to. You get to do all these things. This is a privilege and an honor to be able to do. And our kids are going to repeat what we don't repair, and I don't want that for them.
And I have to admit, I've always resisted the idea of people being broken because it doesn't even make sense to me, to be perfectly honest. I look at people who describe themselves as being broken, and I say, well, you look pretty whole to me. I mean, seriously, that's the way. I'm sure they have flaws like anybody else, but it's not like there's this great big crack down the middle and they're just about ready to, the top half is about to topple over. That's not what we are.
No. And I think I just, and this is maybe polarizing. I and myself previously, a lot of us find identity in victimhood.
Yes.
In feeling like these things happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's other people's responsibilities to fix for me. Had this person not made me angry, this wouldn't have happened, right? Like we give away so much of our power, so much of our voice, so much of our identity and ability to regulate ourselves to other people. And then we're surprised when we don't know who we are and we can't kind of do that for ourselves. And I was previously very rooted in victimhood. It made sense for me. It got me out of doing schoolwork. Like there was just a lot
it's
of these
effective.
benefits. Yeah, really good benefits. And then I felt very small a lot of the time, and I didn't feel like I could do a lot of these things. I don't know that I ever quite referred to myself as broken. And I did kind of feel that way from time to time because then it was someone else's fault for doing that to me. And then I'm too resentful that you broke me. So then I'm not, I'm going to put myself together after you broke it. And it's just like, well, hang on, hold up. Like, what's happening here? How are we going to know who is affecting what? Right. And that's, oh, yeah, I think it's a really hard thing to work through. And I use the term fractures, like that there are some fractures that we can repair in these types of things and rupture and that type of thing. But broken, nah.
Well, you can have a fracture. I mean, you can break a leg and not be a broken human.
Right. Yeah.
That actually makes total sense. And I was just realizing this whole thing about victimhood ties directly back to what we talked about earlier about not wanting to look in the mirror.
Yes.
That's like one of the main motivators for not looking in the mirror.
100%. And there's a lot of this work that for me, when I first started doing it, it felt like losing. Like me being the one to stay calm when you're being wild felt like losing. My kid being able to just like erupt and just be so raw and me having to be the one to help him regulate felt like losing. Me recognizing my errors and going to someone, and namely my husband and my family, and saying, hey, like, here's where I messed up, felt like just the ultimate low of losing. There wasn't a lot of pride that I had in doing any of those things. And now it's the utmost. It's knowing that I am in control of myself and I get to decide what happens and what I do with my body and my voice and my thoughts and my narratives and my actions is the most powerful thing. And that also means that I carry the full responsibility for when I mess up. And now I know what to do with it. I know how to not just stomp on myself, making my language cleaner. I know how to not do that because now I believe that I can do all of these changes. I've gone through enough of these little shifts that I know I'm capable of seeing it through. I know that I can do these things. But when I used to say like, oh, well, my husband's the reason why our marriage is poor. My kid is just, he has really big feelings and he's just so sassy and la da da. It just gave away all of my power. And no wonder I felt powerless and super weak.
Well, I know we're all very grateful that you have gotten your shift together and that you're helping other people get their shifts together. And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that always happens on this show is we like to kind of make a barometer of, how's the show going? If it's going really well, it flies by. If it goes really slow, it's like, oh my God, 20 minutes, 25, 30. This one flew, so this was a good one.
Good. I agree. This was wonderful.
But it also is a little frustrating because it means, well, we have to draw to a close here at some point. So we have like 3 things we like to do at the very end of the show. And one of them is we like to find out, well, okay, Davina Hehn is actually pretty cool. She's got her shift together. There may be people who actually want to find out more about her, maybe even reach out to her. We should probably let them know how to do that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we should definitely do that. One, I've learned that if they want to find me, they will. And also, why make them search for it? So like, I'm with you entirely. So we're launching the parental shift. We welcome new parents, not just couples. It's single parents too. It's anyone who wants to do this work. Yes, it's all around parenting, but it could be anyone. We welcome them on the 3rd Thursday of each month, and so we're constantly rolling through. And that's the parental shift. You can find me on quite literally any social media under A Steady Space is the name of my handle, and my website, all of it.
And we'll get a link to the website in the show notes too to make it easy for people to find that as well. But yeah, it's important. I mean, yeah, I see why you want people to search, but we could always make it easy sometimes too. Why not? Just to mix it up a little bit.
No, for sure. And also in this world where we are so used to getting things so quickly, it's like, I'm not going to search for it. Put it in front of me. Let me click it. I'm the same way. Send me a pop-up. That would be even more. Yeah.
Absolutely. Second thing I like to do is I like to turn to my co-host because Anne-Marie has a really great perspective on all of these conversations and just ask her to kind of tie it together. And I'm curious to see how you are going to tie it together, Anne-Marie. I know you've given it some thought, but what's your tie-in today?
I've been on a journey of 30 years reflecting on my life through this conversation. Totally agree on that. Sometimes parenting is quite shitty, but it's how you navigate that. And I think something that through this conversation is I'm actually really proud of how just watching my child and learning from her is healing me, how she's dealing with things differently to what I would have done at that age or personally now and going, okay, so I'm obviously doing something right because I'm learning how she behaves and I like that and I want to behave more like her as well. So that was one thing about me is just that whole reflection. But I think what took for me was that personal accountability, but also that very gentle method of accepting how, your behavior is how you used to cope. And it's kept you safe at that moment in time, but to reflect on it and grow from it and not punish yourself and just keep moving forward. And I loved that.
Yeah, beautifully said. That's exactly what any of this work is. I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Then the final thing I like to do, I've been doing for a few years now, because I noticed a gap. There's this big gap in what we acknowledge and appreciate in life in the 21st century, because the 21st century, it's internet driven. We're all much more connected than we were 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We can have shows where Anne-Marie is in the UK, I'm in the US. It's just like this is something that didn't even exist then, and now it exists in a big way. And what has gone along with it is there's a whole marketing thing, putting your stuff out there, getting onto the social media and writing blog posts and getting onto podcasts and doing all this other kind of stuff, sharing all this great information that we've learned along the way, sharing with each other, helping somebody else in some way that we never even find out about. And that last bit, that's the part where I realized, wait a minute, that's the gap. We help people we don't even know about. People pick stuff up from us, and they play it out in ways that we never learn about in their lives, and they get benefit from it. We sit back saying, well, did I help anybody? We don't get credit for that.
Yeah.
So I say, well, Davina, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, and never will meet, and never will see, who you've been helping in ways you don't even know about, from doing all this stuff, putting all this stuff out there, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you. That's so kind. It's there is a lot of that. Like, we don't know how far these things ripple. And it's a beautiful thing that that you've created this platform for people to come on and have listeners benefit by proxy, and benefit maybe without even recognizing it, because we get to go into their subconscious. So thank you for that.
Our pleasure, and literally our pleasure, because we love having guests like you on to do that exact kind of. We were talking earlier, right, about doing those dives into the rabbit holes.
Yeah,
I think we spent the entire show in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's
and
it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It's the best. This is why I can't do networking events with a name tag. And it's like, hi, how are you? What do you do? Like, no, let me get into the thick of it. Like, tell me about your childhood. Let's go do therapy in the corner. Like, how do we dig in deeper, faster? This is why I love this.
Absolutely. We're totally in agreement. So thank you very much, Davina, for joining us. Best of luck with what you're doing, and continue good work with Parental Shift. And
thank you.
We really
Absolute
appreciate
pleasure.
it very much.
I appreciate you.
And we appreciate our podcast listeners everywhere as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.